Now I'm going to read a story, Tony's Chocolate Bar. Tony came out of Mrs. Brown's shop with a three-penny bar of chocolate in his hand. He sat on an old wooden seat there so that he might enjoy his little treat in peace and comfort. He tore off the wrapping paper, folded back the silver paper, and took a small bite. "Good day, young sir," said a voice. Tony looked around and saw a little dark-skinned boy standing beside him. "Who are you, please?" asked Tony. "I'm Coco, the chocolate sprite," said the little black boy. "You have just had a bite of my chocolate." "I beg your pardon," said Tony, "but it is my chocolate. I paid 3 pence for it." "I know you did," said Coco, "but it grew on my tree, so it's really my chocolate. I live in a cocoa tree in the hot forests of Western Africa. When a piece of chocolate made from the beans of my tree is eaten anywhere at all in the wide world, I fly at once to see who has eaten it." "Your tree?" cried Tony in great surprise. "Do tell me about it, please." "Well, it is a beautiful one, with large dark green leaves," said Coco. "Each year it bears a number of pods shaped rather like large Easter eggs. The sight of these pods hanging from the boughs of the cocoa tree is a very beautiful one, for they are of all colors: red, orange, blue, purple." "They must look like fairy lamps on the trees," said Tony. "They do," replied Coco. "How it makes my heart ache when the farmer pulls them from the trees, gathers them in heaps upon the ground, then splits them open with a large knife. The pods are full of—" "Chocolates!" cried Tony. "Not so fast, little man," said Coco, smiling. "They are full of white sappy cocoa beans, which are scraped out into heaps and dried in the sun. The cocoa beans are sold in bags to the cocoa merchants of the towns. Then from some port on the coast they are carried across the sea to your country and to other countries to be made into cocoa or chocolate." "How are the beans made into chocolate?" asked Tony. "If you want me to show you that," answered Coco, "you will have to give me a bite of your chocolate." So Tony gave Coco half of his chocolate bar and ate the rest himself. At once, as if by magic, Tony and Coco found themselves among factory chimneys and buildings. The men who were going about their business did not notice them. "Look!" shouted Coco in Tony's ear, for the noise was very loud. "Here are cocoa beans being cleaned in this machine, and here they are being roasted in this one. In another machine the roasted cocoa beans were broken up into smaller pieces called cocoa nibs." Next, Coco and Tony hurried upstairs to a large room which seemed full of machines of all sorts. Some, which looked like huge mangles, made the cocoa nibs into a kind of paste. Others mixed the paste with very soft sugar and with milk. Others ground the paste down very fine, and others poured it into trays. When each tray was full, it began to move along a broad belt, dancing and skipping in a way that made Tony laugh. The trays of chocolate traveled quite a distance before they were cooled in another machine. After that, each tray was given a hard hit on the back with a hammer, and out fell a great piece of chocolate. Each piece was broken into bars, and a machine which seemed to work like magic wrapped each bar in silver paper and a dainty printed cover. "Why, that is the kind of chocolate I bought today!" cried Tony, looking at one of the neatly wrapped bars. "Thank you, Coco, for showing me how it was made." "Wake up, little man. I'm shutting my shop now, and I'm sure your mother must be looking for you." It was the kind voice of Mrs. Brown. Tony rubbed his eyes and looked for Coco, but there was no sign of the little chocolate sprite. In his hand, Tony still held his chocolate bar with one small bite of the end. "Dear me, I wonder if I have been dreaming," he said. Here the story ends. Thank you for listening.